All right, I'd like to call to the regular meeting of the Solvang City Council, November 9th, 2020, 6:30 PM. Can I get a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Here.
Councilmember DeJarnius. Here. Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Waite,
Here.
Mayor Toussaint.
Here. Karen, you want to lead the flag?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is public communications, written or verbal. I don't have any speaker slips. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak on public comment? Is there anyone on the phone?
Anybody, items not on the agenda in person? We'll go to Zoom. If anybody on Zoom would like to speak on items not on the agenda, please raise your hand. And if anybody on the phone would like to speak on items not on the agenda, please unmute yourself. I see only one caller on the phone. To unmute is *6.
That's me.
We can hear you.
Again?
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Please state your name and residency.
Yes, it's Lammy Johnstone, your favorite speaker. I live in Solvang. And thank goodness this election is finally over with. Well, at least here in the city it's over with. I'd like to thank those who have served and bring well wishes to those who will be serving. I particularly, want to thank Chris DeGeneres. Without his obnoxious behaviors to those on the dais and those on previous daises, his rudeness to staff and disingenuous behavior to Solvang's speakers and bullying to residents in general, a recall would never have happened. But it did, resulting in an overwhelming 87% defeat for a council member. This is a California state record. So I thank you, Mr. DeGeneres. Your infantile, destructive tenure helped create, bolster, a very strong Solvang community, which I and all the other 85% of the voters are proud to be a part of.
Super classy.
Have a wonderful and hopefully warm evening, everybody.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
Would anybody else please mute yourself? Anybody else on the agenda would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Anybody else on the phone or Zoom, raise your hand or unmute yourself. Seeing none.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to item number 2, executive reports and advanced calendar.
We can have my screenshot. So I just have a brief city manager report today, just a couple of updates and reminders once again that the 2 positions that were authorized by the current financial plan are now filled, and I would like to actually ask the management analyst, David Packard, who joined the city last week, to stand up and just be the new face in the city hall. It will be a lot of help to me in doing all of the administrative work at the city. He'll be handling a number of areas for the city, including helping with IT, budget, financial planning, certain HR elements, and many special projects. So we welcome David to the city and wish him well. The next item is a reminder about the pickleball courts that the staff is heading up with in-house efforts. We just like to let everybody know that we are asking or looking to raise about $10,000 in donations to help this effort. A lot of the employees in the city will be actually working hands-on to make this project happen. That was asked by residents for quite a while. So if anybody would like to make a donation for this, we ask them to call us at the City Hall at 805-688-5575 or to email cityhall@cityofsolvang.com. Any amount of donation is appreciated, and if this project by any reason doesn't go forward, that money would be refunded back to them. We also started a traffic enforcement trial program this week and actually have done just a very low-profile program with some additional hours on overtime from our sheriff's department to target the hours of commuters in the mornings and in the evenings. And so we've only had actually 1 day for 2 hours and had 5 citations issued. So we'll continue to look at it and see what needs to be developed as a program going forward. Finally, just once again a reminder about the survey, in case this becomes a question for decision makers, is a survey on our front page. You can see a little picture there in the recent news that has only 3 questions and really just asked what kind of development people would prefer. We've got about 104 responses so far, so responses are trickling in, and it's interesting to see what people are thinking, and it's about 50-50, quite frankly, on all of the responses so far in terms of people's preference. Now, moving on to the advanced calendar, on November 23rd, we would have an item for the final hearing and adoption for amending the city ordinance to allow enlargement of outdoor seating for restaurants, bars, and wine tasting rooms in the TRC zone. This was already in front of you before. It's an urgency in the first reading ordinance and has been approved by the Planning Commission, so it's just coming back to you for final approval. We will also have the Santa Ynez Valley Transit Operations Contract Extension in front of you. And we'll bring forward a proposal for to adopt a resolution to update the drainage impact fees, which hasn't been updated from what we can see since the city incorporated. Then final item for November 23rd is awarding construction agreement for the Solvang School sidewalk project. So that's going to be an exciting project for our city. Then moving on, looking forward through December and January meetings. In December, we'll bring forward a resolution accepting the general election 2020 results for the City Council. We'll also have the second meeting regarding the Visit Santa Ynez Valley Tibet renewal. That item is on your consent agenda today, just to notice that these hearings will be happening. And so on December 14th, there would be an item to hear public testimony regarding this. And then in January, the item will come back to you for final approval. Comprehensive annual financial report is expected to be all completed and in front of you or in front of council on December 14th. That's actually earlier than the city has ever submitted it before. We also have the general fund fees and cost allocation contract award that could potentially be in front of you depending on the results of the RFP, which is going out this week. And then we'll have a larger study for the water and wastewater fee study, which will help us with the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. In December and January timeframe, there would also be the process of appointing committee members for both the Planning Commission and the Branding and Design Committee. Those terms expire on December 31st for both of those committees. And then in January, there will be an item for the mid-year budget review, at which point certain adjustment can be made. And another significant item will be the considerations for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade and looking at the alternative 3 versus alternative 2 for that project. And that concludes my report.
Perfect. Thank you. Now move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything from the consent agenda anyone would like to pull? I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
I'll second that.
It's been seconded.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember DeJarnius,
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Tushant.
Yes. Item number 4, receive updated recommendations from Branding Design Committee for design guidelines regulating businesses operating outdoors with COVID-19 temporary encroachment permits. Staff report.
So as you would recall, the Branding and Design Committee has been working on this item for a while. There's been a couple of different versions that came in front of you before. You had originally approved the guidelines from the BDC committee for the Copenhagen closure. I then brought their further recommendations for businesses overall in the TRC area, at which point you directed me to return back to BDC and have an additional conversation with them and to involve the businesses in this conversation and to come back with any potential amendments to those recommendations. Following that, I had a meeting with the local businesses that are impacted, so everybody that's actually physically impacted by having to adhere to these guidelines was invited person by person to the meeting. IDK and the chamber also joined, and based on their general recommendations, that their primary concerns were the cost of the barriers that are the black bottom with the fake grass. Those are $350 each. So that cost was a high concern, and another high concern was having to use umbrellas and not being able to have the parklets. So those concerns came to a special meeting of the BDC, which they held last week. Jennifer Sony has joined the BDC and was there as well. And the businesses were invited, and the BDC had a healthy discussion of, I think, about an hour long on this subject matter. And what they landed on is making certain modifications to just still looking for cohesiveness in their design, but making it a little bit more affordable and easy for the businesses. So they did decide to leave the parklets in place, or to recommend leaving the parklets in place, especially after hearing how that could be also used and being in harmony with the decorations that Yule Fest would be proposing for the month of December. So the recommendation is to continue to use those. Obviously, those who want to use umbrellas would still be able to use umbrellas. But also to move those parklets that are kind of out of place for common areas more towards the businesses that actually need to use them. So to utilize as many of those parklets for the businesses that are actually operating outside. They also modified the recommendation of not necessarily restricting the barriers to this fake grass type of barrier, but they also recommended that that could be just this kind of rope arrangement which satisfies the ABC requirements for many of the businesses that serve alcohol and need to have those, but are much less costly. And they did say that they would not want to allow the wine barrels on Copenhagen. So those are their modifications. The businesses that are operating or expanding into spaces immediately adjacent to vehicular traffic, we still recommend that they use the K-rail barriers. The picture on the bottom actually came from Jennifer Sony, and that is something that the city of Paso Robles is using to just kind of cover up those K-rails to make them potentially look more appeasing. So that is something that we could use as well, so that we would be wanting to use white color for those only.
Like caskets.
So these are the BDC recommendations that stand. We would still proceed with the terrace, skylights on Copenhagen closure within the 2 blocks. We have replaced some of those orange cones with enhanced safety with these larger pots now. They're more in line with color and everything else on the streets. So you can see a little picture over there of new pots that are out there. And then I mentioned here that Copenhagen closure will also be decorated by IDK for the Yule Fest, and IDK can provide some information on that when you have their marketing update later today. And then we would still continue to not allow the plastic bright color furniture or any posts or any pots that are bright color made in plastic, and we would also remove all the tents. And we would continue to encourage black furniture for everybody, which frankly, everybody seems to be already moving in that direction in Copenhagen. So the recommendation is that you approve the BDC recommended design guidelines with these modifications for the TRC area, and that you confirm that you approve a loan of $3,000 interest-free loan program to the businesses that are directly impacted by these guidelines. And the businesses would have to be in good standing with the city for us to be able to issue those loans.
Perfect. Are there any questions of the staff report?
Nope.
Okay, public comment? I have no public speaker slips. Yeah,
Mayor Toutant, City Council, thanks very much for approving our intent to renew the process. And we'll be back in December and then in January to finalize. But some of you will not be here. So I just want to thank you all for your service, and we'll miss you. And thank you for your support for what we do. And we look forward to continuing to bring visitors to Solvang as we're doing now. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
very much.
we appreciate it.
Great job, Shelby, thank you.
Have a good night. Any other public speakers?
Any public speakers on this item in the audience? Would anybody like to speak? I see one speaker on Zoom. If anybody else on Zoom would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Please go ahead. John Patfield is first. John Patfield, do you have your hand raised for this item?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. John Padfield, Solvang. Regarding the last item on the $3,000 interest-free grants or loans, what is going to be the repayment period? And is there something in place to guarantee that all people that do receive them pay them back?
I can
You can
respond to that. The proposed repayment period is 12 months, so for duration of the Copenhagen closure currently through October 31st, essentially. And the enforcement would be a similar note as we had for our loan program for the emergency $5,000. And of course, there is just general collection mechanisms, but this would not be underwritten in any kind of sort. It's
And possibly
small.
not renewing business licenses?
Yes, it would have to be in good standing, and actually the reason I'm mentioning this is because we still have some businesses that have not repaid the $5,000 loan, even though 2/3 have. But we will be making sure that those who apply for this loan are in good standing with their original $5,000 loan and all other city regulations.
Are there any other public speakers? Okay,
Would anybody on the phone like to speak on this item? If so, please unmute yourself by *6. See no more speakers.
okay, I'll take it back to the council for discussion and action. Doesn't look like anyone's too lively here. I'll make the motion to move this item.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded.
Mayor Protem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember DeJarnius,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes. Item number 5, introduction for first reading by title only, an ordinance replacing Title 14 Stormwater Management Regulations. Staff report.
Hi there. All right, as you just mentioned, this is for the first reading of the Stormwater Management Ordinance. We received our general permit in 2013, and at that time, the Stormwater General Permit, at that time, we were required to establish a program. One of the elements of that program would be creating a mechanism to enforce the permit, which would be, for us, the Stormwater Management Ordinance that was developed back in 2000, shortly after 2013 when we received the permit. So we've had that permit, or we've had that ordinance in place up until this point. And in November of last year, we received a partial program evaluation from the regional board. And at that time, they had determined that our ordinance was insufficient in two permit areas, E6 and E10, which are essentially our legal authority for the, to implement the permit, and then also just the general control of construction water runoff from sites. So once we, when they reviewed our information in November, they got back to us this year in July and said that we had a notice of violation and we needed to update our permit to, or update our ordinance to reflect those two elements of the permit. So since that time, staff has been working with the regional board to update our permit and make sure that it meets all the, compliance and regulations for the permit. And it does. So in October of this year for our annual report, we submitted the updated ordinance that you have in front of you tonight. And we are wishing to take what we have tonight and just replace the existing ordinance that we have with what we have in front of you for the reading. So the next reading would be November 23rd, and then after that, we'd codify the ordinance. Do you have any questions?
Perfect. Any questions, staff report?
I don't.
Okay, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment?
Anybody in person would like to speak on this item? Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom would like to speak on this item? Please raise your hand. Seeing none. We have one phone caller. If you'd like to speak on this item, please unmute yourself. *6. See no public comment.
Okay, we'll take it back to the council. Not sensing liveliness, I'll make a motion to move this.
I'll second it.
It's been seconded.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes. Thank you, Bridget.
Councilmember DeJarnius.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Stone.
Yes. Item number 6, marketing update.
Okay. Do we have IDK here with us online?
It's not 9:30. I don't think he's ready.
That is.
There's Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Hello. So thanks, council, for having us for our update that was meant to be 2 weeks ago, but here we are today. So we've got the whole team on with us again, social PR and marketing, but I wanted to start, Cynthia will take us through sort of the marketing update, but I wanted to quickly start with some information about Christmas. So we did present the Christmas plans, sort of overall Christmas plans to the BDC to get approval on the direction, understanding that that's, part of their responsibility at this time. But our goal this year, obviously with the restrictions that we have with coronavirus, our goal is to kind of keep things more simple and homey and kind of old town. So we're focusing on, get away, forget, unplug, unwind, and really try and kind of bring it towards lights and a charming Christmas village. So, we had a different objective last year, but this year we're really focused on that old time, old world European charm. So to that end, working with the Solvang Christmas Tree Committee and the Chamber, we've purchased 100 Christmas trees that will be distributed to businesses that have participated in the Christmas tree program before. And we're encouraging them to decorate those and doing a little decorating contest. And that'll provide some good content for our social media channels. Additionally, we're really focusing on some Instagrammable spots throughout town to encourage folks to visit, and find those picturesque solving moments that we know that they're hungry for. So, we're working with local artisans. We're working with a local artisan to help build some 10 soldiers, to tie into the Hans Christian Andersen. The museums are now open again, so tying, Christmas in with the Rembrandt exhibit, I think will be important. But really like a slower, kind of calmer, more old world version of Yule Fest this year. Obviously, as of this moment, we can't do the parade. We can't do the official tree lighting. We will certainly decorate the tree, and we will flip the switch on those during the farmers market the first Wednesday after Thanksgiving. But we can't have, the traditional celebration that we've had in the past, or that the city's had in the past. Obviously, we were unable to do the drones this year. A lot of those big events that drew, a lot of people are now prohibited. So we're really focusing on spreading it out over the month and getting people in as distant a way as possible. So those are our Christmas plans.
Can we call it a protest?
Um, Boy, I wish you would have asked me that question publicly. Anybody is welcome to exercise their First Amendment rights in this country. That is still very much legal. Yeah, okay, so that's the update on Christmas. So I'll let Sen take us through the rest of the team, what they've all been working on as I've been. One other thing that's happening, 3 other things that are happening Christmas related wise. The chamber is doing a window decorating contest, which I think is great. They're trying to work with their members and businesses within the TRC to encourage them to stay open later, which I know may be tough, but it's still something that, we continue to see a desire within the tourists for the town to stay open a smidge later so that they can do their Christmas shopping. We're working with an organization to do free gift wrapping for any Solvang purchased gifts inside the barn in the park, which cannot be used for Santa this year. And we hope to work with a local family to do the candlelight tours again in small groups, since those are still technically legal. So, and then, the restaurants will continue to do their specials, which we'll blast out on the Yule Fest landing page, but it's a much more subdued Christmas than last year, but we're still confident that we'll be able to bring, sufficient levels to keep the town, as busy as legally possible during Christmas. So, Sen, do you want to take us through what the rest of the team has been working on?
Sure. So I'm going to give the marketing update. Susie will be jumping in to do the website update. And then, of course, Anna will do public relations, and we have the folks from Islet who will be doing social media. And then we'll come back with a real quick CityofSolvang campaign update. So to that effect, our visitation trends on the Solvang USA website are still going very, very positive. Our activity is 20% higher for the past 90 days compared to prior year 2019. So same period last year, pre-COVID, interest levels are definitely still trending up. And then we look at the past period, 90 days, March through June versus July through October. Our website activity is 141% higher. So again, the interest is building. People are coming back into the market. We're doing much more outreach and being much more proactive and communicating with people through all of our marketing channels. The reporting by property searched, we've driven an increase of 136% more hotel views for the past 90 days, with about over 41,500 events, or people checking in on hotels and looking for hotels. That number is represented here. And then we have the total number of events for each property that's represented here in terms of popularity. And as we've talked about, popularity does not necessarily mean more people are booking. You can see these hoteliers here have changed, but we have generated to date $15,203 in appropriated revenue for the campaign. And of course, these are folks that are just booking on our hotel planner, for a total of 93 bookings, an average value of $158 a night. Our hotel occupancy numbers are very positive. This is from July 4th through third week in October. These numbers have continued to climb, which is wonderful news for the overall market. Some of the council members had requested that we report on age and gender data. So this is through basically beginning of year through now. We have female versus male, where our site is being searched by and large by female. We've had a total of 74,738 sessions, which is visitors to the website. And then here are the age categories that have been visiting. And this 25 to 34 was one of our very specific paid media groups. But you can see that the activity is leveling out across all of our age groups, and that's what we want to see. We want to see a very holistic approach based on market interest across all of our age categories.
Did you take a general approach in targeting the age groups, or were you specifically going after the younger generation?
When we did our advertising campaign that was for our 60-day period, we had 2 different pieces of creative and 2 different landing pages. One was for the 25, or the actually 18 to 34 category, and the other was for 55 plus.
So then it
Different
appears that
messages for each group.
your targeting of the younger generation worked. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And do you have a breakdown in terms of female versus age? For example,
I
is it
do. I
most-
can break that out for you. Sure.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll get you the age breakdown by gender. Our landing pages also acted as a lead capture to add to our constant contact database. To date, we've captured 969 leads. These are people that actually went to the landing page and filled out an interest form saying, I want to stay in touch with Solvang, tell me what's happening. And these are the folks that have been receiving our e-blasts in addition to the database that was already existing in constant contact for the city of Solvang. And then here is our landing page activity. Any questions on the analytics before we turn it over to Susie? Okay, Susie, ready?
Yeah. All right. So we have started working on a new Solvang USA website. And I just wanted to take you, we're only a few steps into the process, but I just wanted to take you through where we are at right now. So the initial phase was some research and data collecting. We went through and did an audit of the current site. We looked at analytics and where people were landing on the website, as well as looked at some other tourism sites around to kind of get a feel for what was successful and why people are visiting the site. And then with that information and that data, we created a simplified navigation for the new site. So on that navigation, you're going to have the main categories be dining, staying, which is hotels and bookings, and then experiences, which is our itineraries. So then we moved into the design phase. We wanted it to look very beautiful and splashy and be very image driven. So on the home page, we have an animated hero image. So that will be the first thing that people see when they land on the website. This can be swapped out as things change in Solvang. So whether that be seasonally or new promotions or new events, that can be easily changed out to be relevant content. The next thing we wanted to make sure and have was a dynamically populated social media and event feed. So along the bottom of the new site, we will have our Instagram feed, which is very successful. And we know that people are loving those images and engaging with them. So we want to have that on the site, as well as an event feed. So people who are traveling to Solvang know what's up and coming and they can keep their eyes out for events. We also wanted the design to be clean, user-friendly, so using best practices for user interface and user experience. Everything feels very simple, not too cluttered, but image-heavy and with like light, simple text. We also optimized all of the design for mobile and tablet usage, so it works across a myriad of screens and devices. We know that a lot of people are visiting this site from their cell phone, so we really want to make it user-friendly on that device primarily.
Does this include a map of Solvang businesses so that people, if they're looking for a specific shop or a certain kind of product, they can just use that same website to find it? Because right now we're spending a lot of money printing maps, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'll take that. So we're actually meeting with your new visitor center provider and the chamber this week to work on digitizing the map and creating a mechanism for the businesses to update their information on their own, because we understand that's a bit of a roadblock when things change or get updated. If there's not a mechanism for them to update it, then it tends to get stale. So that is a component of the site. The digital map is a component of the site. You may or may not notice around town already, there are actually little QR codes that go to a almost 7-year-old defunct app.
Yep.
So our hope is to update those QR codes to a digital version of the map. And we're working with your, we will be working with the chamber and with your visitor center contractor, literally starting this next week on that project.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't mention, because most people primarily care about the front end, but the back end will be super smooth. We're going to build it on a WordPress site, so it's very easy to update and manage, no matter whose hands they're in. So things like businesses, hotels, and different experiences will all be post types, so you can edit those however you see fit, and they'll dynamically populate into the pages with the information that you choose. So this is just a quick snapshot of kind of the home page. I had to break it in half because it's obviously more of a portrait style. So this would be kind of the image on the left. We want the hotel booking widget to be front and center. So that is going to coincide with that hero image. And like I said, that hero image, this is a flat PDF, but that can be animated. You can see the little dots on the corner, so that can swap through with different creative, anything that feels relevant and that we want to talk to our community with. And then below that, we'll have a little welcome to the Solvang area with some pictures, and then a where to stay, so people can click directly through to the hotel page, which would be the same page as the top navigation stay.
Yeah, and then just so you know, the reason we laid it out this way is because we spent a lot of time kind of digging into where people were going on the existing site, and we found that there were, like, in some cases, Susie jogged my memory, but I want to say there were 8 to 13 clicks to get to some of the information. So some of the more popular pages were 8 to 13 clicks behind the homepage. So we're moving those up and into the kind of, we're putting the information that people are telling us they want by their behavior as accessible as possible.
Yeah, that's totally correct. There was a lot of information that was kind of nested within other pages on the current site. And so we wanted to distill that out and make it as easy as possible. Okay, next slide. So this kind of shows what it will look like with the itineraries. So our team has been working on a few different itineraries, travel itineraries with businesses and lodging and activities for people who have kind of a niche.
Do we lose Susie?
It looks like she froze.
Then let's move forward.
Make sure we're always building our email list, because that's our choir that we want to talk to. So we want to make sure that is front and center for people to enter their email address. That way we can touch them on further touch points. And then we have that dynamic social feed that I mentioned previously.
Yeah, and again, the focus here is experiential, because as I've been saying for a year now, you've got a strong DMO, you've got a strong chamber focused on the business, you've got a strong rec and park department focused on the locals and activities for the locals. So we see it as the Solvang marketing job to focus on the experiences, to hold the people here, when they're here, so that they know that they don't just need to stay here and then go out to other parts of the San Ynez Valley. That we want to make sure that they experience everything that Solvang has to offer before they go out and visit our neighboring communities as well. So the website is very itinerary focused and very experience focused. So, come with your dog. Here's a whole list of things to do with your dog, but not just like a boring list. Like it's very engaging. You're here with your family. Here's a whole list of family friendly activities instead of just go to the ostrich farm or go to the book loft or go to the Overhoy. Like it's something kind of a little more advanced than that. So we really focused on bringing the experiential kind of front and center to the revised website because we know that there's so many other elements focused on the other bits. So Susie, thank you.
So Scott, how does this tie in with the branding and design committee? The idea of creating a brand through the website so that people can identify Solvang in the way that we want them to identify.
Yeah, so that's a excellent question. So obviously we're focused on fixing the sort of nuts and bolts of the website itself now immediately because we need that tool in order to remain, relevant and successful. But the whole thing's built with creative style sheets that we're hopeful the branding and design committee, once fully engaged in this process, will be able to slot in, wrap it in whatever way they need in accordance with the brand guidelines that I hope are forthcoming from the BDC. So we're not focused on creating a brand, that it's been made clear that that's the role of the branding and design committee. It's our job to sort of tell the brand story alongside those branding guidelines once
Scott, I'm going to disagree with you and encourage you to work more closely with the BDC so that you can give them some ideas. Unfortunately, they don't know what you do, and I think that what you guys bring is you shine a spotlight. Sorry, I got the consonants mixed up. You shine a spotlight on how to attract people online in a way that this is going to be the new portal. This is going to be the way people come and visit Solvang first. And I think the BDC needs to be part of that process and vice versa. You need to help the BDC understand why you're doing what you're doing and the way you do it. 'Cause my guess is that, and I don't want to make this an age thing, but you guys are so far ahead of what I anticipate. I'm so happy to see what you're doing and appreciate everything you've done in such a short time. I think that you need to help us appreciate what you're doing and why you're doing it the way you are, especially when you bring in data sets to explain, who you're targeting and why this works, and it has to be part of the brand design. Does that make sense? In other words, I have a feeling that when people come before the BDC, they're looking more about the architecture of the city, maybe the signage and things like this, and that's really not enough. I don't think that really describes the brand of Solvang. And I think you guys are in a position to help define that brand.
Yeah, I would be honored to work alongside the BDC in whatever capacity that they'd like us to assist. And I think, the chairman of the BDC at a meeting that I watched said it perfectly that, you can't just throw a few elements out and call it a brand. Like it needs to be a really well thought, cohesive thing. And I think the BDC is well positioned to deliver that. And, we're happy to support them in that effort and with information or whatever we can do to support them.
Well, I think what you just described, and I'm sorry if I'm doing this on the fly, but you're really talking about developing a cultural identity. Does that make sense? You're doing this through your pictures, like the two dogs.
Chris, I'm going to have to ask you that unless you have a direct question, we need to keep moving through the
Well, my question is, how does he work together with the BDC to create a cultural brand identity, not just buildings and signage?
All right. Scott, please proceed.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anna?
Cynthia, go ahead. So some of this is stuff that I said last time we spoke. Basically, I've just been trying to strengthen or rebuild relationships directly with Visit California, Visit Santa Barbara, Central Coast Tourism Council. There obviously was a drop off in communication between Solvang and these entities for a bit. So I have reestablished or started new relationships with all these people, which has been fabulous because then I can just go directly to specific contacts when I have information that they need to know to help us in supporting our PR efforts. Next slide. So these are some more recent pieces of coverage that we've received that were pretty targeted in terms of demographic, both geographically and then actual demographics. So this was the same writer for this article. She wrote it for Walnut Creek Magazine, Solvang Sparkles Anew, but then the same article was picked up with a different title in one of her other outlets, which is Just Lux. The opening paragraph of this article I particularly enjoyed. It really speaks to what we're trying to do, which is trying to lure in some new markets in addition to the people who have always enjoyed Solvang and will still keep coming back. So that's just a perfect quote if you want to read that quote. Okay, we can go on. So then we had another piece, which was also same thing, different writer, different outlet, Southern California Life magazine. And I think it is important to note that this was all editorial. It was a multi-page spread about Solvang and a couple of other things in the Valley at that time, because this person visited at the beginning of all the reopenings and not everything was open in the capacity that it is right now within Solvang. But this is a magazine that the SCVB used to pay for advertising in. So we just got this free real estate editorial without actually having to pay. So it's a really great opportunity. And again, the opening paragraph speaks to, if you haven't been to Solvang in a while, it's time to take another look because things are different and things have changed. And this is all the great new stuff we have. Back to the seasonal stuff. So we had some really phenomenal success with attracting people for these fall events. And this was something that I had mentioned last time that we would be using. And now here I am, we did use it. People are just they're craving the holiday thing. They're craving seasons and we see it. I mean, even editorially, we have people just beating down my door proverbially, looking for information about YuleFest and what we're going to be doing for the holidays because so many places have canceled everything. So they're just excited to find out, both the public and editorially, they're excited to find out that something is still going on. So the Scarecrow Fest, fabulous. People loved it, even though it was a little bit smaller this year, all things considered, and the pumpkin patch. So this is an example of something I spoke about last time that hadn't happened yet. But we got this article in Smithsonian Magazine in their digital outlet, and it was just really fun to see Solvang mentioned as a Halloween or a fall destination alongside places like Salem, Massachusetts, which is more traditionally known for this season. So we're not just doing YuleFest now it's slipping us into the fall season too.
And burning witches.
No, burning witches.
That too.
But if you look back like at the hotel occupancy charts, and again, this is all stuff that originally, traditionally, like Scarecrow Fest, and that is a chamber initiative, and I've worked with the chamber on this since I moved to Solvang in 2012. It was something to try to bring people in at what would have been sort of an off season, and our hotel occupancy is just going up and up. So this is definitely, people latched onto it this year. Next slide. This one, this is a writer who was in town for a weekend all over the Valley, but also in Solvang. And after her weekend, she pitched 7 different stories, possible stories, to various outlets for which she writes. This is one that she landed right away because her new beat with the San Francisco Chronicle's digital platform, SF Gate, is Disneyland. So she just, like, her eyes lit up when I told her about Michael Cobb and High Roller Tiki and his, the fact that he's a Disney alum. So she did this fantastic article about his business. And I actually had a text from Mike like 2 days later after this published. And he said he couldn't believe the traffic that he had that weekend. And pretty much everybody had come in to town, to him, but into town because of this article. So it was great.
The Trader Vic's.
Yep. Okay, so I have to keep moving all of your faces over. Coming up, like I said, we have YuleFest, and although we don't have something solid yet, and I haven't actually put an official press release out yet until we have some more things in place, but we've already had interest. I mean, people are just looking for this content. So we have already seen a couple of placements. We had a good one, Pioneer Woman. We supplied imagery for that one, and then Photos Travel will be coming out within the next 2 weeks, I believe. And that's another one where I kind of have to be vague with some of these people and what I'm talking about, but I am already talking to people about it. So we have some placements already. These are other pieces which are actually in an Inland Empire magazine. They just published their November issue, so I got a mention there. as far as getaways from the Inland Empire. And Inland Empire magazine is a nice glossy publication. It's kind of in the same family as Los Angeles Magazine, Pasadena Magazine, Orange County Magazine. 7 by 7 is San Francisco Bay Area. Again, this was a writer who was in town, and she'll be pitching probably to multiple places, but there will be a San Francisco Bay Area article, digital, coming out hopefully within the next few weeks. And that will have, she was in Solvang for 2 days and 2 nights. And then we have 3 potential pieces from different writers on Forbes.com. Again, just pending their pitch acceptance by their editors. And then Westways Magazine, I know that we will have Copenhagen Sausage Garden. I pitched them for a cheap eats section in Southern California, which will be in their one of the spring 2021 issues. Usually comes out like February or March. And I actually have another writer who will be coming, that's not mentioned here, from Westways, who will be going through the area, specifically on the food side for food content for Westways. And then we have kind of a fun project. I have this writer who's coming the very first week of December. She's traveling from the Bay Area, road tripping down to Solvang. Solvang is her southernmost destination, and then she'll go back up. And I'm working in conjunction with SLO County, and Monterey County DMOs to plan her trip all the way down, and then Solvang, and then all the way back up. So we're all working together to do this whole great kind of seasonally appropriate road trip for her. She is one of the people who potentially will be placing a food and beverage oriented story on Forbes, but she also has placement already secured for this on Travel Pulse. And actually what's not mentioned on here, sorry, and I didn't put it on here on purpose because I'm a little bit superstitious, but we had Fox Nation approach us. Fox Nation is a streaming channel of Fox News. And because it is streaming, they do not have commercials on their shows, like actual commercials, but they still have commercial breaks in the show content format. So they have a show coming up this year that will actually run on Fox Nation. It'll be streamed all the way through, hopefully, the holidays next year, 2021. And it's going to be about like extreme Christmas fans. And we will have Solvang content, basically a commercial for Solvang, highlighting Yule Fest, highlighting the holiday activities, but we're not paying for it. So we got this great Solvang commercial as filler in this Christmas show on Fox.
Thanks, Anna. Great work as always. And one thing I just want to say, just because invariably, anytime we talk about change or talking about changing how we're positioning Solvang in social, I end up getting a few emails the next morning. So I just want to reiterate that when we're talking about change, we're talking about targeting new audiences that understand that there are multiple facets to Solvang. So, you know, the Solvang that you've been coming to for 40 years hasn't changed and won't change. We're not advocating for that change. But there's also this other side of Solvang that appeals towards the younger demographic focused on Scandinavian chic and wine and we're able to target both audiences without alienating one or the other. So, you know, by no means are we advocating for, you know, a complete teardown and rebuild of anything. So I just want to make sure that's clear so that hopefully that will save a few people from writing angry emails tonight.
Well, and to add to that, Scott, it's also in talking to these people, you know, I'm talking to the editorial side. Sometimes I hear from consumers as well, visitors, but we do need to show them things that they don't know are here. People that might not have been here for who knows how long, decades. I receive very nice emails from people after they've visited saying, this is great. I didn't know this was here or that was here. And I always do try to do a mix. You know, if somebody comes into town and they specifically want to say something, I'll also say, well, you should really try out some of the bakeries. But they're very grateful for us showing them things that if we didn't show them, they might not visit.
Awesome. Jamie or Leanna?
Okay, I'm going to step in here and let me start off by saying that Solvang's social media is thriving month after month. It continues to blow me away by how engaged everyone is. So you can take a look at the top there. Those number of impressions are the total number of times that our posts have been seen in the last 30 days. So over 290,000 on Instagram and over 78,000 on Facebook. We currently have over 13,500 followers on Instagram. We gained 920 just in this last month alone. And to give you some historical context, I looked up in October of 2019, there was a net of -6 followers. So that's a big deal to go from -6 to 920 in 1 month. And that number outperforms the travel industry by over 10,000%. We are up 116 new followers on Facebook as well, bringing us to a total of 28,675. Next slide. Okay, here is an overview of the top 5 performing posts on Instagram. The Christmas, the commercial with the snow did amazing. That was easily our top performing post ever. Had over 2,500 likes, 103 comments, 157 people saved it alone, which means that they bookmarked it into their album so that they could reference it later, and over 500 people sent it to their friends to share that content. In addition to the likes and comments, which are publicly visible, you can take a look at the saves and sends on the bottom. Those are considered to be, those are dark metrics, which means that the only people that can see them are us, but it's also a representation that our comment is, our content that we're putting out is good, that people want to reference it later, especially when they're planning a trip to Solvang, in addition to shareable content to share with their friends and partake in something later. Next slide. Okay, so how does Solvang compare? We wanted to give you a look into other local DMOs. We compared Solvang against Monterey, SYB, Pismo, Carmel, and Paso. And you can see that our engagement rate outperforms everyone. It was 4.34 in the last month, outperforming the other accounts by 1.5 to 3%. Which is amazing. And in addition to that, the 30-day growth metric, 920 new followers, bringing us to the total of 13.5 thousand. And another thing to look at to give you context is some of these accounts, basically the larger the account is, the quicker it grows. It's a snowball effect. So you can see that Carmel, Monterey, and Pismo, have higher rates of growth than the other accounts, and we are outperforming them with a smaller account. And usually the bigger the account, the lower the engagement rate. So we are right in the middle of everything and outperforming the other local DMOs. Next slide. Okay, so touching on the influencer campaign that Susie talked about briefly in terms of the website, we are not only building out itineraries to go live, we thought that the best way to do that was to invite influencers for each category that have a significant following, have them cover the content themselves, enjoy it themselves. I also want to point out that IDK is paying out of pocket for all of these. So we don't want to put any of the local businesses out by asking them to host these influencers. They are all being paid. We've reached over 270,000 followers because of these accounts. And the categories that we've done so far and had visitors for has been dog friendly, luxury, and family. And then we can syndicate this content again for social media, the website, and email marketing. Next slide.
Scott, how much are you out of pocket now? How much have you given from your own personal funds to do this?
I don't know. I honestly haven't looked, but I don't know. I mean, I would have to look and come back to council with that answer. But what I want to mention there that she kind of glossed over, and because she doesn't want to pat herself in the back, but the whole team has found these influencers, and I hate the word influencer for the record, and generally it conjures really bad things, but what we did is we chose people, not necessarily the biggest accounts, right? There's plenty of people that have hundreds of thousands of followers that we passed over because we wanted to go for people who have really engaged followings. But more importantly, we wanted people that had pretty good content. And so for the same cost that would cost us to just hire a really good photographer and bring a photographer in to take pictures and have that content, for exactly the same cost, we're targeting, we also get the added benefit of those people putting it out. So for example, Eric, who shot our video series, we paid him to come in just to be a videographer, to shoot the 4 vignettes that we did with Ingeborg, Solvang Restaurant, Burkholm Bakery, and then soon with Olson's. When we shot those 4 vignettes, for the cost, when we didn't overpay on the videographer side, we paid normal market rate for it. But while he was here, he was taking behind the scenes photos and sharing them with his over 460,000 followers on social media. And that generated tons of additional engagement that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So we're really intentional. We're not just choosing influencers just because we think that's the way to go. We're being really intentional about how we're hiring these people and what we're doing with them. So that's the only thing I had to add on the influencer side.
Okay, so out of those 3 groups of influencers that we have had a total of 53 different posts and stories, over 43,000 likes, and 761 comments. And here are some samples of the comments that are publicly stated on the influencer accounts. So you can kind of get a look at how their content is resonating with people in terms of Solvang.
Yeah, and Jamie and Leanna spend all day, every day, responding to people who are direct messaging, people who are in the comments. We make sure we respond to them so that the people, they ask questions and we're able to kind of help them, where should I stay? What should I do? Where should I go? Are you still open? What are the COVID requirements? So they're also acting sort of as customer service to the DMs, which is a tedious job, and they're doing a good job of it.
Yeah, it's almost like a digital visitor center. People will be like, I'm coming in town with a group of girlfriends. Where should we go? And then we, seek that out. They're like, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? So we give them different options and make sure that everything's addressed that comes through on social media. Okay, next slide. That's it.
Great. Sin, do you want to take us through those last couple?
So as we've told or shared with council, we have the CityofSolvang campaign that has started in October and is planned to run through New Year's. It is engaging people in letting them know what's happening with merchants and with events to keep people engaged as we move into the holidays. So we want to continue to create this sense of activity in a world where there isn't a lot of events and activities happening. We want to make sure that people know that Solvang is where it's at. So we have our October to mid-November. As Anna was saying, we're focusing on all of our fall stories. In mid-November, we're transitioning over to Yule Fest, and then we'll continue that the festivities through December with our holiday-themed content, particularly as the town is decorated. Our engagement strategy is ongoing, consistent communication. We have over 16,000 people in our constant contact database. Our e-blasts are going out every 2 to 3 weeks. Our landing page is updated every single week. Angie from IDK is talking to the merchants, asking for new promotions, what they have happening, if they're doing anything specific, such as Small Business Saturday. All of those things are going into the landing page, and those are being updated. We also, as Scott referenced, completed some live videos with Solvang merchants during the week of October. So we'll be adding these streaming videos and fresh content at least every other week, if not weekly, as we move into the holidays. This is, again, giving people a virtual taste of Solvang for those folks who aren't comfortable visiting yet or who maybe don't know that much about Solvang. We want to give them a little taste of different venues, different experiences to really encourage them to give Solvang a try on their terms when they're ready. And then, of course, we have our new skull pole banner artwork that has posted as well to emphasize the whole celebration throughout fourth quarter.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I just realized that I forgot to pick those up from Inkling, so they haven't actually been posted yet. Sorry. They've been done for like 4 weeks. Oops.
Our eBlast engagement rate, as Leanna was talking about with social media, our eBlast engagement rate is incredible. Our November 4th Fall Into Fun had an open rate of 23.8%, a click rate of 13.5%, which is more than double 2019 results from previous this amount of time categories. We had a 35% open rate last year, but only a 6% click rate. So we more than doubled our click rate. And again, these are going out to folks every few weeks to keep people engaged and informed in what's happening with Solvang. Our landing page for Solvang is also seeing very consistent results. You can see this is just as we were launching, and then as we started sending out our e-blasts, these are the peaks and valleys as we're sending out e-blasts, and people are revisiting these over time. This is basically for the last about 45 days, but we've had almost 1,500 visitors, over 1,900 views, 170 conversions. And by conversions, we mean people are either filling out the interest form or they're clicking through to some of our links that are on the e-blasts to learn more. And an 11.37 conversion rate over to specific links that were designated. So in summary for tonight, our planned marketing efforts are exceeding 2019 pre-COVID performance. Our CityofSolvang campaign is planned out through Q4. Merchants remain engaged. They're giving us these weekly promotional offers and seem excited when Angie comes in to learn about what's happening with them specifically. And as Anna mentioned, our hotel occupancy is very positive with positive gains in Q3, and we expect those to continue through Q4.
Thank you, team. And thank you, council, for allowing us to give the presentation. I know that it's always too long for you guys, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to public comments or public comment on this item.
I don't see anybody in person. Would anybody online like to make public comment on this item? Please raise your hand if you do. I don't see any raised. Looks like Beth Badarak has unmuted. Go ahead.
Hello, Beth Badrak. I just have a question about the Christmas trees. How are they being distributed to the businesses, and have they been already? Because we usually have paid to get one, and I haven't been contacted at all. And so I would be curious as how to get one.
Yeah,
If
so
that's possible.
sorry, may I take that?
Yeah.
So we're actually, we just purchased the trees. They are not meant to be delivered, I don't believe, until a couple of days after Thanksgiving. But the same place that you've purchased them in the past, they refer to, it's a group of people that refer to themselves in their emails as the Christmas Tree Committee.
Yes.
I actually see Max on here. I don't know if he can give more detail, but those guys are actually handling the logistics and the distribution. I believe the chamber's involved as well. We just wrote the check and asked that folks would provide some pictures and content back for us. So if you've purchased them in the past from that Christmas Tree Committee, then you're already on their list to receive the free tree this year.
Fantastic. And thank you very much for doing that.
I mean, like I've told them, it's not all, you're very welcome, I'm sorry, but it's not all altruism. I mean, at the end of the day, I looked at what it would cost us to get content in terms of pictures of the town at Christmas time to use this year, and the same cost that it would take for, some really high-end photography, I can then provide trees and get the photographer from you guys. So it's not, I think it's a better way of spending money. So it's not all altruism, but you're welcome.
Thank you.
I see Max raising his index finger.
Right now I have, looks like Sim Shady has unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, that's Max Hanberg, part of the Christmas tree group. We will probably be delivering them the week after Thanksgiving. They're normally delivered to us the Friday after Thanksgiving, and then we will be distributing them throughout the week. But we are asking that if you have a stand from last year, that if you could bring it to my shoe store, we're just sort of collecting them there, and then we will install them and deliver the trees. If I can answer anybody's questions, I'd be glad to.
Okay. Is there any other public comment?
I'll bring my stand over to you, Max.
Would
Thank
anybody
you.
else like to make public comment on this item? Please unmute yourself or raise your hand. Don't see anybody else.
Take it back to the council for discussion and action. I don't see much liveliness on this. I'll move. Karen?
I just have a comment. I just want to really thank IDK for the really professional and bang-up job they've done for us for the last year. So it's really, really helped this town. So thank you very much and all the best.
It's been a pleasure working with you.
I wanted to make another comment with respect to Scott's unilateral sacrifices on behalf of the city. It's my understanding that he's contributed a lot of his own funds. Thank you, Scott. I don't know why you're doing this. I wish you'd tell us how much it is so we can take care of you. And then secondly, I want everybody to be mindful of the fact that this is basically a self-funded organization now. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that his income, the revenue that funds his efforts comes from his success in bringing business to Solvang. Is that correct? It's tied to the TOT?
Okay. So comments. So I'll move staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been seconded.
Mayor Protem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember DeJarnis,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Wade,
Yes.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes. Item number 7, AB 1234, report out, council comments and request. I don't believe there's been any events that anyone's gone to, so I think we've satisfied that. Is there anyone that has any comments for the night?
No?
Okay.
I was going to bet no.
I have one item. I'm getting lots of calls and texts and stuff from the public. There's some confusion over the recall, and there's different opinions. Some believe that the second the recall passes, that council member is immediately removed from office. Some believe it's as of when the county certifies. Some believe, is there any clarification that I can get from you regarding, some people believe that this member shouldn't be able to vote tonight, so I'd just like to have clarification for the public's record.
Mr. Mayor, and I don't want to get caught in a late night, whatever that was at our last council meeting. So I'm glad it's still only 7:42 tonight, and things have gone along fairly quickly. I'm just going to read the elections code sections because I've had those same questions. And one of the things that I find is that you need to read all the words in code sections, including the relevant ones for the elections code. So election code section 11384, which is in the section related to municipal recalls. If a majority of the votes on a recall proposal are yes, which is very clearly the case here in Solvang this time round, the officer sought to be recalled shall be removed from office, and here are, I think, the important clarifying words, upon the qualification of his successor. Election Code Section 11385 then provides, if at a recall election an officer is recalled, that's the case we have here, the candidate receiving the highest number of votes shall be declared elected for the unexpired term of the recalled officer. Then I'll go back to the language that I said that was important in 11384. That occurs in the same way as it does for all newly elected candidates. And so all newly elected candidates, there is a process under Election Code Section 10260 through 10266, which involves the regular procedure of certification of results by the county elections office to the city elections official. The city election official will then, as she's noted for your December meeting, she will be bringing to you a resolution which involves declaration of the results, and then you will have installation of the newly elected officers. Again, all is provided in those election code sections. That's called the qualification of the newly elected officer. In this case, the qualification of the successor to the recalled member of the council. So upon the swearing in of the successor, which it looks like by all counts at this point is going to be Jim Thomas, at that point, Mr. Jajernis will be removed from office.
Okay, thank you for providing that clarification. So his last meeting would be in the first meeting of December.
If he attends, it would be the same meeting as the rest of you.
Perfect. We're adjourned. Thank you.